Hi guys, thanks for clicking on the video. We're at Johnny's Chop Shop today in Marshall Street in Soho. Today we've got our wonderful model Max with us. We've got this long blonde locks at the moment. We're going to give it a little trim. We're going to put a little bit of a different shape into it. If we look at the moment, we can see back area is slightly longer than what we have in through this front area. You can see how this line just changes. So we're going to bring this up so it's a little bit more symmetrical, a little bit more balanced through that back area. We're going to talk you through how we style much more of a longer length look. We're going to be using the sea salt spray, and then we're going to be finishing off with a little bit of the texturizing cream to add a little bit more of the pieciness in towards the end. As we can see, Max has got a little bit of a beard at the moment, so we're going to talk you through about how to put the beard line in as well and trimming it yourself at home. The key for Max's hair today is to allow a little bit more volume, a little bit more texture to come out behind here. The best tool which we're going to use for that is going to be a diffuser. The diffuser attachment which goes onto the hairdryer. I'm going to be showing you how to use that and the best practices for that. So with Max's hair now, if I was to use the scissors, we would go through there and it's going to end up really quite blocky through this bottom area. It would create a really solid line and it would just be really quite heavy and there wouldn't be much movement through the bottom. So today what I'm actually going to use a razor, still use the same sectioning pattern, trying to get it so it works and balances out with that length we've got through the front, but really razoring into it so that it sits much more softer through that bottom area there. So now if we look at that bottom edge then compared to what we've got through the bottom, you can see now this already sits a little bit more broken up. We then pull that to the side here, you can see this is a little bit more blunter with it. So just creating a little bit more texture from the get-go. It's important to note that using a razor is not for every type of hair texture. So don't just go straight into the barbershop and say, oh, I want razors because I want it to be softer. It definitely isn't for every person, but on the right type of hair it works very nicely. Okay, so we can see with this, what we've got now through this bottom area, really nice and straight in through the back here, but you can see it's really broken up, so that texture is already coming out really nicely through that bottom area. Coming through to this side area, there's actually less to come off than what we had through this back area, just because then we're matching with what we've got through this front area, so we can see that comes through there, so there's just a smidgen of weight and corner which you just need to take off through here. Max's beard now, it's long at the moment, it needs refining, all of this is really super long underneath here. Key points of what we need to do with this is actually if we look here, this line where it is currently is actually a little bit too low where it's grown out. So we can see that needs to be brought up a little bit so that it comes into that point in through the center area here. So we're going to move that line up slightly so it frames the face very well and doesn't give the illusion of a double chin. Then I'm going to get rid of a load of that weight underneath here, gently fade this down through that side area, take a little bit of this fuzz off in through the chin area where it's poking straight out. Moustache where that's all poking out, we're going to clean that down so it sits a lot smarter. So initially I'm going to run the number 2 guard all the way over it, which is 6mm. This is going to get rid of a load of bulk, but still keep it on the beardy side. So good area to separate head hair from face hair, generally the mid ear, so we can see actually the hair texture changes around there. So I'm going to separate that and comb that round behind the ear. So we can see there's all this excess there actually, so I'm just going to pull this back to sort of where the natural line of the beard is, pull that back with the comb. I'm going to nip that off like so. That reduces a lot of the weight, cleans that area up really nicely. And then again, all of this extra through here, I'm just going to pull that back to the line and refine it there. Now when we're looking at a beard, we can see actually it's a lot darker through here, gets a bit lighter, then it gets a bit darker and through this area. So to balance that out, I'm going to take this area a little bit shorter, then that'll create a nice smooth transition in there. By having this go dark, light, dark, it makes this area look a lot finer. So if we balance that in there, it makes the whole beard look a lot fuller. Then we're going to follow this line down now, clean that up through there. It's going to work down to this side. So we create a nice corner into the side of the jawline. So that straight line, so it's going to match up through there. So we create that real nice masculine sharp edge. We can see the area where it meets neck to actually sort of chin area is right around there. So that's where it's going to start. So I'm going to place that initial guide in, right into the center there. And then what we need to do is follow that into this corner area here. So I'm going to follow that round. It's really going to frame that face up nicely. And if you use a nice clipper like I'm using at the moment, which is really quite wide, it's much easier to get that straighter edge. Just then where there's a couple of extra longer ones, we're going to bring that comb in, and just where it's just almost like a little bit of a lip, just going to take that off and just refine it ever so slightly. And if we see now, really nicely frames that face, builds that nice corner up, so it actually gives it a real nice solid masculine edge. So with this mustachio, we're just going to strengthen that all up. So we can see actually underneath, the growth pattern is a little bit weaker underneath, so we're going to bring that then up to the lip line and then remove some of that weight where it's sprouting outwards. So I'm going to hook that underneath with the comb, and anything then that comes out that way, we're just then going to glide over and get rid of a load of that weight. And again, in the corners of the mouth, where a lot of people have problems with, again, just hooking that comb in and just taking them off. So styling Max's hair now, there's still quite a bit of moisture into the hair. It's still damp, it's towel dry, I'd say. We're then going to use some of the Johnny's Chop Shop Trigger Happy Texturizing Spray. Now what I'm going to do with this, we want to sort of feel as though we get an even coverage with this. We don't want it to be just sprayed in certain areas. We don't want it to be like bang, bang, bang. We want to get it so it's even distribution, so it feels like it coats a lot of the hair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my fingers in towards the roots and try and lift a lot of the hair up. We're going to spray it a few times and just lift the hair up and almost just dust it through it. We want to feel as though it is covering a lot of the hair. Now that I've sprayed that in, we're going to use the hands, really try and work that through. By having the hair damp at the very start, it makes it easier to be able to work it through the hair. Again, just trying to get that even distribution, all the coverage of all of the hair. Really scrunching down into the roots. We're going to put a little bit of a centre parting through there whilst we're drying into it. So I'm going to use a comb with some wide teeth to it. We're going to brush this hair back. We're going to find the centre spot in the middle. We're going to comb straight back and separate the hair in two, comb it down. The comb again is then going to help get the product evenly distributed through the hair, making sure it's got that nice balance to it. Now to the drying part, we're going to use the diffuser attachment onto the hairdryer. Now these are a universal fit-in generally. You can buy these and just attach them to the hairdryer. As the name suggests, it diffuses the air. So when you put your hands in front of it, you can't really feel it. So the air works into there very softly and doesn't separate it. So it gets rid of a lot of frizziness. It allows that texture to really come out. Now the key for this is actually to have the hair sitting off the root. If the hair is sat flat to the head, then it's going to sit very flat. So we want to have this sitting at its natural fall. So I'm going to ask Max to put his head back slightly so we can then work underneath it and then put the hair into it. So say if you're doing this from home, then you can just tilt your head to the side and put it back in like so. Now I'm going to use this on a medium speed and a medium heat. The process is quite slow because the air is flowing out of it quite slowly, so take your time with it. You just want to gather the hair into it and let it sit into the diffuser. We're starting in the back area because this is where the most amount of hair is. It's very dense and very thick through the back area of the head. To get this dry in the most efficient way as possible, we're starting at the back. Now we're going to work into this side area. We want to take all the weight off it, so we're going to allow then some of this volume to come out here. If we were to have the head in a neutral position, all of that's going to sit super flat to the head. So if we tilt the head to the side, get all of that weight off through here, that's going to allow a lot more of that texture and a little bit more volume to come out through this area as well.
Well, yeah, it does proper bring like texture to it, doesn't it?
You can see now after diffusing this, it really allows a nice texture and almost a little bit of a wave and a little bit of a curl to really come out. You can see how this now, a little bit of that curl really framing that face through there. We can still see there's a few flyaways in through that top area. So to smooth this over, next we're going to add a little bit of cream just to give a little bit more of that pieciness texture to it. We don't want to use crazy amounts. I'm just going to use a little bit at the start. Really work that through the hands and then just almost rake it through the hair. Now this is great, it's not overly matte, gives it that texture, the creaminess is very easy then to be able to work through the hair. Just take some of those flyaways away. We're just going to rake it through, so just pulling the hair apart just ever so slightly.
It smells great, that stuff, doesn't it?
Nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
So after finishing now, let's do a little recap, and we can see the before image. If we look on, say, the left side of it now, it sits really flat to the head. There's no real volume in through there. There's not a great amount of texture. There's no real shape that's actually been put in there too much. You can see it's got that little bit of lift through the front, but it just looks messy and disheveled. It's got no product in at this point. But then if we compare that then to the after image, we can see that the shape, by just lifting that up through the back area, it fits the face way better. You can see how the diffuser's really brought that wave and that curl out into the hair. The sea salt sprays really helped that to grip on to then create that texture. And you can see that the hair's actually got a real nice natural sheen to it from the cream that we put in. I think the difference between the two, it's just night and day, isn't it? If we're then to look at another option of how then you could style it, we've kept the styling the same, but just then pushed it just back across the ear. And you can see now by pushing it on top of the ears, it just gives it a little bit more width. It's got some real body to it. It feels as though it's really nice and full. Still quite a bit of texture, but a slightly different look to it. And you can see with this fourth image then a slightly different look again. If you don't get rid of the center parting, run your hands into the front of it, lift it up with a bit of volume through there, and you can see how now by having that product in there, it gives it a nice shape, that nice volume, that nice body. It's got the real nice sheen to it, but there's nothing too heavy with it. All of this lovely texture in through this back and bottom area when it's pushed off the face. A bit more of a looser sort of skateboardy look, but it definitely looks like it's been done into a hairstyle rather than just it sort of just being messed up and ruffled up. So hopefully you enjoyed that video today. If you've got any other ideas of haircuts or styling you'd like advice on, drop a comment down below and we'd love to get back and help you with that. Thanks for watching today, guys. Have a brilliant rest of your day.